Vale. A ver, antes que nada... hostia, esto no va.
A lot of this isn't going to make sense to you. And I'm sorry about that. I'm just
Espera un
going to start at the
segundo.
beginning with the house.
¿Me das un segundo, por favor? Ey, ¿qué tal? Bienvenidos un día más a mi canal. Vale, esto me está dejando...
Someone had
Vale.
put up a chain link fence, but it looked like I wasn't the first person to hop it.
Como veis, vamos a darle a What Remains of Edith Finch. Que creo que esto lo jugué yo hace tiempo, pero me acuerdo muy poco de él, sinceramente. Y antes que nada, lo que debería de hacer es comprobar... Oigo, que esto lo pille bien, que no lo estaba pillando. Ahora... Ok. No sé cómo debajito está el juego. Vale, perdón por eso. No me lo estaba pillando bien, he tenido que quitarle y volverlo a poner. Como digo...
My brother Milton disappeared when I was 4. It was like the house just swallowed him up.
Vale, lo bueno es que no voy a tener que leer yo. Milton Finch. El 2003. Vale. Esto está bien, vale. ¿Puedo...? No, esto es un zoom. Todos los botones son zoom.
I lived here until I was 11, but I wasn't allowed inside half the rooms.
Vale. No sé cómo estará, como digo, de alto o de bajo el juego. Y como digo, recuerdo muy poquito de este juego. Somos una chavala que estamos
Inside the
intentando
mailbox were bills
recorremos
from
nuestra
7
antigua
years
casa.
ago, marked urgent,
Uy,
open
vaya
immediately.
visual ese, ¿no? Y tenemos que, o sea, recorremos esta casa y vamos descubriendo historias de nuestra familia.
I
Creo que
hadn't been
recordar
back
que era,
since
de
my
nuestros
brother
antepasados.
Lewis's
Algo así.
funeral.
¡Ah! No recuerdo si era de nuestra familia directa o de
In her will,
gente en
my
general de
mother
nuestra
left me a
familia.
key, but didn't tell me what it unlocked. Maybe she thought I'd know. Or she thought the mystery would be enough to bring me back.
Vale, tenemos dos caminos. Vamos a ir... Uno que nos lleva por la izquierda. Pero no estoy segura si los dos me llevan para el mismo lado.
No one had driven this way in a long time, but I saw a few hoof prints.
En realidad me gusta más el camino de abajo. Este es demasiado camino. No puedo correr, en serio. Oh, no puedo correr. No, todos los botones a los que doy son zoom. Vale. Por cierto, si me vuelvo a caer estrepitosamente o algo, de nuevo va a ser por culpa de caída de internet o que se sature o no sé. Llevo un anillo delgado. ¿Puedo ver las ramas? No puedo verlas.
The truth is, even after I inherited the house, I never thought I'd come back to it. But now I had questions about my family that only the house knew the answers to.
Básicamente de eso se trata el juego. De averiguar cosas de nuestra familia. Vale, ese es el camino que veíamos desde arriba.
The woods around the house have always been uncomfortably silent.
Todos los caminos. Logro
As
desbloqueado.
if they're
Porque
about to
mira por
say
los dos
something
lados.
but never do.
Es que este camino mola más que el de arriba. Un que por ahí no podré ir porque está el río. Y me imagino que el de estos bajará por aquí y dará al mismo lado. Digo yo. Otro cartel. Hola. Efectivamente, estos se unen.
The house was
Joder,
exactly
ojalá
like
tener
I
una casa de
remembered
estas en medio del
it,
bosque.
the way
¿No?
I'd been dreaming about it.
¡Guau! Ah, una lata. ¿Qué coño es eso? Vamos a hacer un comentario de esa serpiente dragón en el agua. Joder, ojalá tener una casa con un laguito en medio del bosque, chaval. Vale, eso me lleva a la casa, pero primero...
As a child, the house made me uncomfortable in a way I couldn't put into words. Now, as a 17-year-old, I knew exactly what those words were. I was afraid of the house.
Bueno, ¿por qué tengo miedo de esta casa? Si mola un montón. Yo tengo uno de estos en mi casa. ¿Veis la reunión? Vale, esto es una entrada. No, pero no te metas.
Crawling through the doggy door used to be a lot easier when I was 11.
Ah,
The power had been turned off the night we left.
¡Ey! Fernando, ¿qué tal? Bienvenido. Y muchas gracias. Bienvenido también. Tu acompañante. Joder, qué guapo esto, ¿no? Y acabo de entrar y esto es el puto garaje nada más, ¿sabes? Ah, esto es para medir hasta dónde tienes que meter el coche. Ingenioso.
For the first time in years,
¡Ey! ¿Qué tal?
I
Que
felt
tenía
like
puesto
I
ya
was
antes de fondo
home.
mientras hacía cosas, pero... Ya me senté yo aquí.
But instead of a family, there were just memories of one.
Que hay tantas...
Like how only one restaurant would deliver to our house, so we had Chinese a lot.
A ver, la comida
Or
china...
how
nada.
after Louis started working at the cannery, we all got sick of eating salmon. Except our cat, Molly.
Vaya. Pero desapareció... ¿Y lo encontraron muerto o lo dieron por muerto? Pues bastante de masacre. Tenía el volumen bajísimo.
The table
Sí, ya
was
te he
still a
visto.
wreck from the night we left. It was like a bomb had gone off, killing everyone but sparing the furniture.
Joder. ¿Por qué?
My mom was the only one of us who could imagine Great Grandma Edie living in a nursing home.
Dios.
Nothing in the house looked abnormal. There was just too much of it, like a smile with too many teeth.
Tío, pero tenéis demasiadas cosas. Joder, y yo digo que el salón de mi madre
Even
está
the
recargado.
fireplace had a story. Edie told me the bricks came from the original house after it sank.
Supongo que serán los desarrolladores o algo. Ajá, 100 años de soledad. Ajá. Hay libros famosos aquí. Cocina cósmica. Este tiene repetido. Mola.
Mom always told me to stay out of the basement, so I wasn't too surprised when the key didn't fit.
Bárbara. Unas mejitas de Diana sí que tienen. Ah, vale.
Great Grandpa Sven built a music box for Barbara, along with the rest of the house.
Qué guay. Es que cara más rara. Ah, que era directora o actriz o algo así. Bichos. Cara más rinoceronte. Acá abajo peloteo. Mola. Pastoralia.
A lot of things got left behind in the whirlwind of that last night.
Vale, la cosa es, ¿por qué se tuvieron...? Ah, esto es lo que estaba mirando en el garaje. Había una cosa de
Edie
estas.
told me once that every Finch who ever lived is buried somewhere in the library.
No tengo más nada para ver. Picha de
After
libros,
Milton
tío, me recuerda un
disappeared,
poco a mi casa cuando
Mom
nos
sealed
mudamos.
up all the bedrooms. Then Edie retaliated and drilled peepholes.
A ver, necesito... Ah, esto es que se irá desbloqueando a medida que avancemos, a lo mejor.
Molly always seemed like a girl I could imagine being friends with, if she hadn't died in 1947.
Mira, la rama ahí.
I spent a lot of time playing in
Hola.
Great Uncle Walter's room.
La casa
I think my
en-
mom sometimes regretted not sealing it up.
Claro, tendrá muchas habitaciones porque eran de diferentes miembros de la
Louis told me
familia.
there were secret passages, but I never believed him.
Hola.
Turns out, my mom was really good at keeping secrets. Now it was time to find out what my mom had been afraid of.
Vaya.
From the paintings on the wall, it was clear my brother
A mí
Milton
me
had
gusta
been
mucho
here
la
before me.
entomología, ¿eh? A ver los dibujos en la pared, era evidente que mi hermano Milton había estado antes que yo. Bonito gatete.
Reading this, maybe it sounds like I had a plan. But I had no idea what was behind that door.
Otro cuartito.
Just like I had no idea where all this was gonna lead.
O sea, como lo que tenía en la foto. Las pobres hormigas estaban ya más muertas, qué lástima.
I grew up looking at Molly's room through the peephole.
No. Ni un hámster o algo. ¿Puedo abrir esto? Nope.
Being inside for the first time, I felt like I'd stepped behind a painting. Molly's gerbil had a tiny bedroom with its own even tinier
gerbo
gerbil
tenía.
cage.
Ja. Estoy súper chica.
December 13th, 1947. Dear Diary, I'll be gone soon, but I wanted to tell somebody about what's gonna happen. It started when Mom sent me to bed without dinner. I woke up and I was starving, so I looked around for something to eat.
De las medidas como también te movidas así. Yo los criaba. Criaba hasta cucarachas, hasta que mi madre se coscó.
My Halloween candy was all gone.
No.
The gerbil food was dry, but I didn't mind it.
Pero bueno. Pero niña. ¿Estás comiéndote esa wea? Pescadito. Coño, tiene su propio baño la niña.
I kept eating and eating.
Pero bueno, niña. ¿Pero qué haces?
Then I heard chirping outside my window.
Vale, espera.
I ate a lot of things that night.
Pero bueno, ¿que tenía pica o qué? ¿No te vayas a comer paro, niña?
It was a barn swallow going back to her nest. I reached out for her.
Y me maté.
And suddenly, I was a cat.
Pero bueno.
I tried to be quiet, but the bird was really scared.
Como yo de chica, vamos.
Mom and Dad didn't even look at me.
Ay. Tiene pinta de que puedo saltar por esto, ¿no? Coño, mareo.
The babies were all gone.
No. Pajaritos.
I jumped and I almost got her.
Pero vamos a ver, deja al pobre pájaro tranquilo.
I could tell she was getting really tired.
Ah, porque pensaba que me podía subir encima de... ¡Hola, hola, hola, hola! Tremendo salto. ¿Dónde está? Ah, está ahí. No.
Now I was up in the big tree. I promised Dad I wouldn't climb it anymore. All I cared about was eating that mama bird.
Pero, ¿por qué? Deja mamá pájaro. Tienes tu comida.
I gobbled her up. And suddenly, I was an owl. First, all I heard was the wind. Then I heard little teeth nibbling in the grass. Rabbits. I imagined his face looking up and seeing mine through my talons. I swallowed him up, and I didn't chew one bit. Then I flew off to find something bigger. A mama rabbit.
Ah. No diré nada porque...
She was almost too big to carry. I started choking, but I couldn't stop eating.
Pero niña, que se siente con la comida.
Suddenly, I was a shark.
Sí, tú más. No, lo criaba. Simplemente criaba cucarachas, bichos, hormigas, lombrices. ¿Por qué? ¿La niña es la prota? O alguien que está investigando. Es alguien que está viendo su casa de
I rolled off the cliff
la
and into the
infancia,
ocean.
recordando o averiguando historias de su
Hungrier than
familia.
ever. I wanted fat, juicy seals.
Ah, no.
I tore off her flipper, and it tasted really good.
Vaya niña más, joder. No, pobrecita. Cómetela, no la dejes así.
I grabbed on tight. When I was so hungry, I jumped out of the water. When I opened my eyes, everything had changed.
Un pulpito. Un pulpito. Pulpazo, vamos, porque parece tentáculo. Ah, vale. Vale.
Now I was a monster, and I smelled people everywhere.
No, soy el Kraken. No, pájaro, oye.
I was big, but I moved real quiet.
Ah.
I wanted to stop, but also I didn't.
No veo cómo. ¡No! Mira que se me ha quedado pillado. No, no puede ser. No. Esto no lo había visto. Se supone que nosotros somos esta. Y que ahora mismo estamos viendo la historia de esta. No. Se ha quedado pillado. No puedo. No tengo un momento de control. Fuck, ¿en serio? Voy a salir un momento y voy a entrar otra vez. Es que creo que... Ahí va. A ver, quería salir del menú principal, joder, no... Calla. A ver. Por favor, un punto de control. Que se ha quedado el tío ahí pillado. ¡No! Otra vez desde aquí. Madre mía.
December 13th,
¿Puedo saltarme esto?
1947.
No.
Dear Diary, I'll be gone soon, but I wanted to tell somebody about what's gonna happen. It started when Mom sent me to bed without dinner. I woke up and I was starving, so I looked around for something to eat. The gerbil food was dry, but I didn't mind it.
Puto loca.
My Halloween candy was all gone.
Por Dios, me quedé pillada otra vez.
I ate a lot of things that night. I kept eating and eating.
Qué asco.
Then I heard chirping outside my window. It was a barn swallow going back to her nest. I reached out for her. And suddenly,
No se puede saltar, parece.
I was a cat.
Pero
I
bueno, más o
tried to be
menos.
quiet, but the bird was really scared.
Intentaré ir esta parte rapidito.
I jumped and I almost got her. I could tell she was getting
Mira, ahora
really
sí me deja
tired.
subirme.
Now I was up in the big tree.
Ahora se me ha dejado
I
subirme a la mesa
promised Dad
encima,
I
¿no?
wouldn't climb it anymore. All I cared about was eating that mama bird. I gobbled her up,
Por favor.
and suddenly I was an owl. First, all I heard was the wind. Then I heard little teeth nibbling in the grass.
Ahí está, por aquí. Toca alejar para verlo.
Rabbits.
¿Dónde hay? Ah,
I imagined his face
No, no
looking
tanto
up and
rato, pero
seeing
bueno.
mine through my talons.
haría bien que pusiera un
I
poquito de
swallowed
control
him
de
up,
vez en cuando.
and I didn't chew one bit. Then I flew off to find something bigger.
Escucho.
A mama rabbit.
Ah,
She was almost too big to carry. I started choking, but I couldn't stop eating. And suddenly, I was a shark.
por la cara. Ah, pero por favor. Qué más vicio. Qué más vicio.
I rolled
Oh.
off the cliff and into the ocean.
Madre
Now,
mía, ni siquiera me he
was
saltado, o
hungrier
sea, ni
than
siquiera he
ever.
chocado el coche. ¿eh?
peephole.
No, no puedo salir por ahí. ¿Puedo salir por la ventana? Sí.
This will be obvious later, but my mom never told me any of these stories. Edie would have, but Mom didn't like bringing up the past. Though, when we adopted a stray kitten, she was the one who named it Molly.
Pero bueno. ¿Será por eso?
I spent a lot of time in
No
Great-Grandma
me
Edie's
dejaba ir por
room.
la puerta. Ya, qué guay, ¿no? Mejor que tenerlos ahí encerrados, de verdad.
Edie knit me a new pair of gloves every year, just in time to replace the old ones. Louis died a week before we left, but Edie had already started to memorialize him.
Oh. Ah, este es el cuarto de la abuela, ¿no?
Her room was like a museum.
Eso parece.
For 500 years, the Finches have been famous throughout Norway for their fortune and misfortune.
Ok. Ah, no, si no había abierto ninguna puerta. Vamos, yo no he abierto ninguna puerta ni visto ninguna puerta que se abriera. Como mi abuela. Construido en 1937, Edith Finch.
One summer, they evacuated the island, but Edie refused to go. For a few weeks, she was a celebrity.
El pastillero mítico, sí.
I hadn't thought of myself as Edith Jr. for a long, long time. Edie gave a big interview about a mole man living under the Finch house. My mom was furious.
¿Verdad que tiene la nariz como los topos nariz de estrella?
When Edie told people Sven was killed by a dragon, she could also have said he was building a dragon-shaped slide that collapsed. She could have, but she didn't.
Sven, el nombre más típico también. Ah, mira. Este es el que estaba en el lago. Ah, que era un tobogán. Para tirarte al de esto. Ah.
Even in her 90s, sometimes Edie seemed a lot younger than my mother.
Uy, bo. Uf, estos cuartos de baño me dan repelús. Una ranita. Otro pastillero.
The only trace Grandpa Sam's first wife, Kay, left on the house was the pink bathroom.
Ugh. Como mi abuela con la silla en...
It was a pretty big trace. There's a secret in this bathroom. It's in the last place you would look. It isn't in the cupboard. It's hidden in this book.
Mola. Joder, ojalá una casa así, tío. Con lo que me gustan a mí los pasadizos y esas mierdas.
Sven gave Sam an old camera he'd refurbished. He never put it down.
Como mola. Newton. ¿Ah? A este le molaban los soldaditos. Fan Center. Y nada, ¿no?
I knew Grandpa Sam had a twin, and that he never talked about him. I guess my grandpa didn't like history any more than my mom did.
Ni mariquitas en amarillo, ¿cómo? No entiendo lo de ni mariquitas sin amarillo.
How I Want to Remember My Brother by Sam Finch. The thing I remember is that when he made up his mind, that was it. My brother said he'd die before he ate another mushroom. And he did.
¿O se murió?
At Barbara's funeral, we swore we'd never be afraid again. And he wasn't.
¡Que me tiro!
I think Calvin always wanted to fly. But that day, he finally made up his mind to do it.
¿Quieres saltar?
I told him going around was impossible.
No, no. Ah,
Maybe if I
hostia.
hadn't said that.
Igual, chaval.
Maybe if the wind hadn't picked up,
No,
then
estás
maybe
loco.
he'd still be here. But I doubt it. I think he'd already made up his mind.
¡Niño! ¡Oigo!
That's what I want to remember about my brother.
Qué vértigo, ¿no? ¡Oigo, oigo, oigo, oigo! ¡Qué vuelta!
The day he made up his mind to fly.
¡Hostia, chaval!
And he did.
Se mató saltando en un puto columpio, madre mía. Joder, hostia, qué cortita
Calvin's
esta historia.
story felt strangely familiar. When I was younger, I remember trying to do the exact same thing.
Tía, ¿cierras o qué? Madre mía.
After the funeral, Edie roped off Calvin's half of the room. Mom said Grandpa Sam enlisted at 18 and never set foot in the room again.
Joder, la casa mola un montón. Parece que está montado de verdad.
The passages were a pretty tight fit. They'd obviously been built for smaller hands and bellies.
O sea, pero... ¡No salgas! Vale. Oh, este era el rollo de cine, ¿no? Ah, esta era la
Growing up,
directora.
I
o-
always thought of Barbara as a child star.
Ah, no, estrella... actriz, coño, no me sabía. Penelope Steiner.
I never thought about how hard it must have been for her afterwards.
Se murió súper joven también, tío. ¡Ah! Dreadful Story.
Of all the stories people wrote about Barbara's death, I'm surprised Edie saved this one.
El final sorpresa de
Old
Bárbara
Jack
Finch.
here with another ghastly tale inspired by America's most unfortunate family. I'm calling it The Surprise Ending of Barbara Finch. As a child star, Barbara was famous for her scream. Now at 16, she was all washed up. A has-been. But in a lucky break, she'd been asked to perform her signature scream at a local convention for monster movie fans. It was just the boost her career needed. Unfortunately, her scream hadn't aged well.
Getting better. I think you just need the right motivation.
Her biggest fan and current boyfriend, Rick, was about to demonstrate
Buscando
when...
vete. Sí, todo
Now that was a great scream.
It was
Mucho
Barbara's
pasadizo.
father, Sven. He'd slipped into a table saw and had to be rushed to the emergency room. So Barbara got stuck babysitting her youngest brother, Walter. Her convention comeback was cancelled.
Okay, I'm hearing frustration, but I'm not hearing terror. What if I tried...
A gang of hoodlums in Halloween masks have been terrorizing Orcas Island tonight. Police are urging residents to...
That came from the basement.
monsters had come to surprise her. For Barbara, it was a dream come true. Then she saw what kind of monsters they were, and she realized what was about to happen.
Una fiesta.
She was going to be famous. And with her final breath, Barbara Finch gave the performance of her life. I wasn't there myself, but I hear Barbara was magnificent. Poor girl. She had a taste for stardom. But unfortunately, so did her fans. Of course, the police blamed it all on poor Rick, who disappeared the same night. And little Walter, hiding under his bed the whole time. He took it all pretty hard, but that's another story. As for Barbara, tucked inside the music box is all they ever found of her. Her ear.
Pero bueno.
Now that's what I call a real eerie tale.
Ajá, XD.
Edie told me all Barbara
ya
wanted
estaba
was
la
to be
mecha.
remembered, as absurd as that comic was. Maybe what Edie saw was a happy ending.
Ventolera. Las puertas no se abren. Y es que están selladas. Como... con... silicona o con...
I guess now I know why
poliuretano de
Mom
eso.
didn't like me playing with the music box.
Ja.
Whenever people ask me about my family, the first thing they always want to know about is Barbara. Mom must have locked the third floor stairs on the night we left.
Vaya.
It's funny. All those times I played with the music box and never found the basement key. My Grandpa Sam spent 7 years sharing a room with his dead brother, Calvin.
Gregory.
As a kid, I just assumed every house had peepholes and sealed rooms you weren't allowed inside of.
¿Te imaginas?
The last time I was in Edith Sr.'s room, I was 10 and she was painting my portrait.
Vale, pues vamos a por la llave entonces. Pero con el muerto, ¿te imaginas? Ah, pues no, no era la entrada que yo
My mom
pensaba.
wasn't much of an optimist, but she never stopped believing that my brother Milton was alive.
Ah, esta era la... Este sí lo he visto antes. Ah, claro, era este pasillo el que yo confundí. ¿No? Ahora, joder, dame un ratito. Sí, pero que pensaba que estaban cerradas con llave, pero no es que estén cerradas con llave, es que están selladas literalmente. Con... eso, lo que sea que utilicen. Silicona, poliuretano, lo que sea.
Mom said the basement was off limits, unless I wanted another tetanus shot. saw Edie sneak down to the basement once, carrying packages. I thought maybe she was hiding presents. It turned out she was hiding a lot more than that.
No veo nada.
I remember asking Mom once about where Walter had gone. She said after Barbara died, he got as far away as he could. If there's a pattern in all these stories, I think it's that none of us has gotten very far.
Anda, mira, mi padre no me ha querido tren.
Goodbye, everyone. I can't believe I've been down here for 30 years.
¿En serio?
On that first day, after the shaking started, I didn't think I'd survive a week. But after a few days, I settled into a routine. That's what kept me sane.
Joder,
Having a schedule,
que tengo muy poco
living
espacio para
for
un
today.
ratón.
I always expected to be dead tomorrow. But if you wait long enough, you get
Ya
used
me
to
está
it.
temblando el mando, que te cagas.
Even a monster on the other side of the door starts to feel normal. Almost friendly. And then one day, everything just
¿Qué?
stopped.
¿En serio tu historia va a ser todo esto?
Whatever that thing was, it was gone. Maybe
Ya
I got
no.
tired of waiting. Or maybe I just got tired of being
2005.
afraid.
Tío, pero tío.
It's been a week now, the longest in 30 years. I'm done waiting. I have to leave while I still can.
Ok. Sí, libros por todos lados, ¿eh?
I know it's out there somewhere. Whatever killed
Paranoia,
Barbara,
sí. Lo que fuera.
and
no me
Molly,
acuerdo.
and Calvin. Maybe this is all a mistake. But I need to stop living the same day, even if it kills me. Whatever's out there, I want you to know I'm ready for it. I'm going to appreciate all of it, especially the food.
Pero, tío,
I don't mind if I only have a year left, or a month, or a single week. I'd be happy with one new day.
pero bueno.
I can already imagine the sun on my face.
¡Hostia! Y palmó porque le atropelló un coche. Uy, un coche, digo, un tren. Joder. Con de los cotones.
Walter died when I was 6. I can't believe my mom never told me he was down here.
Pero, tío.
I'm
Puta
sure my
locura,
mom
tío.
was trying to protect me.
No, creo que porque tenía Porque tenía miedo de
Maybe she was
lo que
afraid I'd
mató
end up
a
like
la
Walter.
hermana, a la actriz.
But if she never
Parece.
told me about an uncle under the house, I can only imagine what
Droga.
else she was hiding. I don't want to make the same mistakes she made. Trying to bury something that's still alive.
Pero puta locura, tío.
Now that there's only one of us left, or maybe two, I thought it was time I heard the stories for myself and found out what happened to everyone else.
O sea, porque ha ido todos muriendo
But now
y
I'm worried the
no sabe
stories
cómo
themselves
murieron.
might be the problem. Maybe we believed
Todos
so
locos.
much in a family curse, we made it real.
Oh.
I don't know if I should even be writing this.
¿Ya está todo? ¿Una persona?
Maybe it'd be better if all this just died with me. But I thought you should know about your family
Coño.
and the history you're a part of.
Ah, por aquí es por donde se coló el kraken ese, ¿no? El bicho o lo que fuera. En el sueño de Molly o lo que fuera de Molly.
Though to be honest, I feel as lost as you probably do right now. I think the people in these stories believed
Sí,
them
por su fortuna
for
y su
what
desgracia.
that's
Sí.
worth.
Joder, no veo nada.
And when you look at the house, that history of imagination and stubbornness and madness, any of it seems possible.
Vaya puta locura.
I
Joder,
think
vaya
we've
rodeo.
been surrounded by death for so long, we've just gotten used to it. What kind
La
of family
musiquita me mola,
finishes
¿eh?
building a
Música
cemetery
ambiental.
before starting the house?
Hostia, que tiran
It's
literalmente un
embarrassing for me to
cementerio.
admit this, but the pet cemetery may be more uncomfortable than the human one.
I know that feeling. Oh. Christopher.
3 of the gerbils are mine, and 2 had been my fault.
Vaya. Pero bueno, niña.
Sven built the house, but it was Edie who designed the cemetery.
Oh, mira. Está ahí la personita dentro de... como en el túnel. Chaval, bastante guay el diseño de esto. Que represente... Oh, mira. Tumba de la niña.
I'm sure Odin's monument had been Edie's idea. My mom was always trying to move on, but for Edie, the past never went away. She could see it poking out of the water at low tide.
Ese es el barco que veía el tiburón. Hundido.
Edie said she dreamed about the old house every night.
Ah, no, la vieja casa. Vale. Hostia.
Daddy's side was always easier for me to understand. But the older I get,
Sí.
the more I can see where my mom
Sí.
was coming from.
Pero bueno, yo qué sé. Si lo
Her
vas a
dad
tener
had been
enterrado,
pretty
ponerle
strict,
algo
but
que
it
le
wasn't
gustara, ¿no?
enough to
Pues,
save her
pues, pues,
brothers. She was just trying to do better.
La verdad es que casi todos murieron bastante jóvenes.
She
Yo creo que
lost
menos
two
la
of her
abuela.
brothers, just like I did. I get why she tried so hard to protect
Ah,
us.
porque eran dos hermanos. Ya decía yo. Uno murió y el otro desapareció. Me extrañaba a mí, digo, coño, estoy confundiendo los nombres. Pero no, es que parece que sí que había dos.
There's so many things I wish I could
Como
ask
se me
my
dan tan
mom
mal los
now.
nombres, digo, lo mismo que me estoy
Part
equivocando
of
yo.
me thinks this is what she wanted all along. For me to come back someday and find everything out for myself.
Te volvieras loca y te murieras. Una historia estrafalaria.
But looking back on it now, if she told me there was going to be so much climbing, I never would have come when I was 22 weeks pregnant.
¿What? Hostia. Pero loca. ¿Y por qué hablas de 22 semanas? ¿Cuánto es de 22 semanas? Son... no sé, 5 meses. 5 meses y pico, no tengo ni idea. La verdad. Ah, hay una escalera.
I never met Grandpa Sam, but I think he and my mom had a lot in common. They were both pretty intense.
Vaya.
Sam spent his life shooting photos, but Mom said he got nervous being in front of the camera. I guess we're all afraid of something.
Joder. Son las 8, tío. Bastante condecorado. Vale, es
Instead
que
of hiding from death, Sam seemed to go out of his way to meet it.
supongo que el archivo ese es lo que me va a hacer su historia, así que quiero mirar un poco primero. Casi. Pero parece que ya no hay nada más. Bueno, voy a hacer esto primero. Uy, tengo la mano la. Abre, abre. No. Abre. Es un selfie.
Dawn, I promise, you'll never forget this weekend.
Yes, sir.
These memories are gonna last a lifetime.
Hmm? Am I gonna have to shoot anything?
It's a hunting trip, Dawn. Shooting is strongly encouraged.
What?
Perfect.
It's gonna rain the whole weekend, isn't it? I will never forget this weekend, Dad.
Okay, got it.
I'm gonna take some pictures, okay?
Just be careful. The camera's older than you are. Hey!
That's a keeper.
Definitely should not have drunk all that coffee.
I'm just saying, I'm not always gonna be here, Dawn. You'll need to remember this stuff, if you want to survive.
I'll be fine, Dad.
You know who else thought he was gonna be fine?
Some guy who died.
Dawn, I'm being serious.
I know, Dad. You're always serious. Doesn't being out here make you want to chill out?
Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't been out here in 20 years. Last time I was with my brother Calvin. Man, that was a great trip. Your grandpa Sven taught us how to fish, how to build a fire.
Dad!
Good eyes, Dawn.
Oh, vaya, más chula.
Before you take the shot, let me get a picture of it.
Dad.
Let me get behind you.
Estaba mirando a la niña leyendo el álbum.
Do I have to do this?
Dawn, you don't have to do anything.
No
But if
me
you want to
gusta la
survive,
caza.
you need to be strong. Great shot, Dawn!
¡Oh, no! No quiero una foto de eso. Mal.
I'm proud of you, Dawn. Always remember that, okay?
Señor, es usted cruel.
Dad, it's twitching. I think
That's
it's
totally normal, Dawn.
Oh,
Just
no,
focus
no
on the
es
camera.
normal.
Try not to think about
Dad!
No lo es. O sea, siento que esa niña es capaz de perder a su padre, pero no me da pena, lo siento. Y murió así, en serio.
Of all these stories, that's the one I wish most that my mom had told me.
¿En serio? A mí no. Ah. A ver. Es que esta casa es puto enorme, tío.
After Sam died, my mom and Edie got really close. They'd both lost a lot.
Vale, eso se supone que será lo que me dé la historia, ¿no? Ah, no, lo que me dé la historia será ahí. Mira. Ah, que murió muy chico.
Dear Kay, do you remember the way Gregory used to laugh when he thought he was alone? Like something funny was happening, but only he could see it.
Era esquizofrénico.
Hand over, Gregory. It's time to... Hold on, sweetie.
sé por
I know you
qué.
did everything you could.
Oh, pensaba que la rana iba a abrir el grifo y el niño se iba a ahogar.
Called that night.
¡No! ¡Mi ranita!
Damn it.
La ranita ballena.
Hold on, I don't want grief.
I wish he could have told us about the world he saw. There's so much I don't understand
Seco.
about Gregory,
Oh, tía.
about everything.
¿Soy un profundo?
But I know what happened wasn't your fault. I'm sure he's happy.
Tremendo esto, ¿eh?
And he'd want you to be happy too. Good luck, Kay. Love, Sam.
Ah, las cajas que tenía él eran cosas de ella. Ella se fue. Después de que muriera el hijo. Hostia, chaval. Qué duro, bicho.
I can't imagine my mom ever writing poetry, and yet
¿Tiene una cresta? Poema para Gus.
A poem for Gus, who always said the wedding was a bad idea. Our father never hit us kids, at least not very hard, before the day my brother said with teenage disregard that he'd be dead before he'd see a wedding in our yard.
Ah, vale, tengo que llevarme la letra, ¿no? Ah, me falta
My
una letra,
father
¿eh?
made him come, of course, but Gus stood far apart, just flew his kite and bottled up the storm inside his heart.
Ay.
I tried to talk him out of it, but though he'd never met her,
¿No cogí? Ah, sí,
we
pensaba
don't
que
need
lo
a
había cogido.
stepmom, were the words that
I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride.
Ah, vale, que es que hay más cosas.
when the time for photos came, Dad ordered him to
Come
come
here.
But Gus declined, and as a sign held up his middle finger.
¿En serio? Hago yo eso a mi padre,
Wind
me pega
picked up, and panicked geese
no fue
appeared and quickly went. But all the humans did that day was go inside the tent.
Ah, había abajo.
The rain came down in buckets then, but no one seemed afraid that nature might destroy the tent our dad had crudely made. The thunder sounded much too close and full of angry power. But all my father said to this was, "Make the music louder."
Ha dicho que pongan la música más fuerte, no que traigan más cerveza, ¿qué cojones? Pero niño, ¿qué has hecho? ¿En serio? Ah, no.
I wish that I could truly say I thought about you on that day. Out there on the beach alone, just you, the wind, the sea, and foam.
Ah, pues sí.
But I didn't. Until we found you.
La caseta le reventó. La traducción un poco free. Sí, sí, sí. A veces... Pero bueno. La idea es la misma, pero
she never
no
talked about
entiendo
it.
qué necesidad había de
Mom told me
cambiarlo.
once if I was a boy, they were going to name me Gus.
Yo iba a llamarme Alejandro. Hasta que nací y era niña. esto me mola.
My
Yo,
mom
la
moved up
casa
to the
está
loft after
muy
her
guay.
brothers died. At the time, it was as far away as she could get. She spent a summer building houses in Calcutta, where she met my dad, Sanjay.
Ah.
Religion was another thing my mom never talked about, but I think it helped her a lot after her dad died.
Ah, pensaba que me ibas a contar otra historia. Okay.
My mom moved to India a week after
Tiene hasta
graduation
tiene
and
de
got a
todo esta
job
casa,
teaching
cojones.
English.
De todo.
Louis was born a year later.
Ah, claro, Lewis es mayor.
When my dad died, I don't think Mom knew where else to go. I'm sure Edie was happy to have her back. And to see kids in the house again. The house had to get a little bigger, but Edie was used to that. And for a while,
¿Qué llevo?
things were good.
1 hora y media. Es que no sé cuánto
Almost
dura
normal.
el de esto. ¿En serio tenían una clase aquí? O sea, les enseñaba en...
But it didn't last.
Edith Finch. La maldición. Mitos. Ja, mola. Correcto, por cierto.
The beginning of the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle.
Uf.
After Milton
¿Qué está
disappeared,
desaparecido?
the only thing he left behind was a room full of paintings.
Ah, claro, Milton es el hermano, claro, qué cojones. Hermano de ella. El desaparecido. Ah, mira, esa es la portada de... Bueno, la portada, una de las portadas de... del juego. Ese cuadro. Y luego la... la silueta de la casa y el bosque. Sí, qué guapo, cojones. Pero me debe de quedar la mitad, ¿no? Que no ahora me
Milton
fijaré en
Finch
el-
in The Magic Paintbrush.
Ah, vale. Uah. Se hizo una puerta y se fue. Sí, literal. Supuestamente eso es lo que pasó. Vale, falta
I was 4 when Milton disappeared.
Louis, Eddie, Odin y Sven y Sanjay. Ah, porque esos son los que no son de la familia, ¿o qué? Sí, no, porque Sven era de la familia también, ¿no?
Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors.
Sí, bueno. Yo tampoco me fío mucho de esas cosas porque tú sabes.
Whatever
Entonces
Milton
ahora
had found in
que
the house,
corriendo,
Mom
sabiéndotelo
didn't want it
todo,
getting out.
yendo muy lento. Yo he tenido que repetir un cachito del principio. Así que rondará por ahí, pero no me voy a guiar mucho con eso porque... ¡No! Porque, yo qué sé, lo mismo a mí me voy más lenta y me... Joder, qué putas vistas más guay, vamos. Por un lado bosque, montaña y por otro lado un lago ahí.
Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Lewis blamed himself.
Supongo que hasta que acabes el árbol... Sí, sí, pero que, claro, yo no
After
sé
he graduated,
si
he
todas
just
las
spent
historias son
more and
iguales
more
de
time in
largas, de
his room
cortas, si me puedo atascar.
until Mom got him a job at the cannery.
Por eso tenían tantas latas.
Everyone always told
Yeah.
me to stay out of Lewis's room, except Lewis.
Marihuana. ¡No! Me falta un cacho. ¿No puedo trepar? No. A ver, por aquí. Hostia, que es como un barco, tú. ¿Ah? Es como un barco.
Lewis's room smelled very, very familiar. That part of him lived on.
Hostia. High school. Legalize. Este es del... Vaya, era gamer.
Dear Mrs. Finch,
Oh.
as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Lewis first noticed the monotony of his daily life.
No.
He kept working at the cannery, but he withdrew part of himself.
No.
In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to wander.
Ah, hostia. A divagar.
I asked him to describe it. He said he started small, imagining a labyrinth. He'd feel his way about.
Como el puto psicotécnico, vaya.
Then something moved. Bats. And toads.
What?
And things that have not names. He knew it was all in his head.
Huh?
But he took it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more. I worried about him then, daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss, but he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused. Like a whole new Lewis. So I let him go on. I even encouraged him. It It seemed very
Cada
promising.
vez se está haciendo más grande la imagen, cada vez veo menos de la
He
realidad.
told me he'd made a new friend.
Ay, que matasco. Perrete. ¿Pero viene detrás? Ah, vale, porque no sabía si tenía que hacer algo.
On the edge of a
Vamos,
city he
perrete.
named Lewis Topia.
¿Por qué me he ponido justo
He
ahora?
built the city up slowly, brick by brick.
Tío.
Then he made musicians.
Really?
And songs for them to play. He talked about starting a band. And he was always humming something.
O sea, eso lo hago yo también.
Every day his imagination grew stronger. He
Déjenme
no
pasar.
longer spoke at the cannery. But his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him. At all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination. So he could do whatever he wished.
¿Qué pasa? ¿Qué está atascando? Ah, vale, que es por aquí arriba. No puedo avanzar.
He held an election for mayor. And he won.
Este es como un nivel del Mario.
They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a
El
game
último
for
pescado me ha
him.
dejado. Ah, sí.
He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Lewisburg.
Conquistado.
St. Louis. He started drifting away from our reality.
¡Ah, que me choco! Dios, esto gira...
Minneapolis, until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery.
Gira un poco regular.
Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Lewis kept sailing on.
Madre, déjeme, estoy viendo la tele ahora mismo. Ah, estoy trabajando, estoy haciéndolo bien. ¿Qué más queréis?
In Lewisburg, he heard rumors of a beautiful prince. The prince was on his own quest for sinister serpents.
¡Ay!
He followed the sound of
¡Ah, que
his
tenía que tirarlas! Hostia.
silver harp.
Hostia, pues no sabía que tenía que darle a la serpiente, pensaba que tenía que evitarlas. ¡Ah, no llego!
His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon.
Os sorprenderá un
Even
poco,
then,
pero mi
his
cerebro a veces
logic
funciona
remained
así.
sound.
O sea, no porque tenga alucinaciones, sino porque estoy pensando en algo mientras me están
He knew
hablando
the
de una
world was
cosa
all in his imagination.
y mientras estoy haciendo otra. Es un poco coñazo. Ya os digo, ¿no?
But he was so proud of having created it.
Pero que me lo ponéis de dos en dos.
In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king.
Es bastante agotador.
For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Lewis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him.
Chan chan. Así que me voy. ¡Ey! Buenas, Evil, ¿qué tal? El trabajo terminado. Madre, ¿le has hecho ya el logo? Hostia, mira.
Began to forget the world we know.
Ojalá no me pase eso nunca porque me quedo a la puta. Meto cuchillos.
I think
saco
it pained
tripas.
him to remember
Meto
Lewis,
cuchillos,
the
saco
cannery
tripas, saco
worker.
tripas. Oh no. Qué puto desagradable tú.
He began to despise the man with a royal contempt.
Luis, amigo. Vuelve en ti, amigui. ¿Puedo...? No. Vale, entonces, ¿no tengo más salida? Che, le ha hecho el banner y todo. Ah, porque me tengo que ir por aquí, ¿no? Quizá.
I still thought I could save him.
Así me gusta, trabajo bien realizado. Para
Even
la buena
after he
gente.
said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions.
Todos han muerto de una manera bastante absurda y brutal, así
including the wise Calico who'd insisted on advising him.
Pues vale, bien aprovechado entonces. ¡Está Molly aquí! ¡Molly!
His prince waited, holding his crown. There was only one thing left to do.
Asesinar al rey. ¡Hostia!
Bend down his head.
Pero bueno, que me vais a cortar la cabeza. No, ante la cabeza en la cortadora de pescado. No, Luis.
And the rest I think
¿En
you know.
serio murió decapitado?
Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
Hostia, Pedrín. Bo... lo peor es que yo sería propenso a lo que este señor. Esto estaba diciendo yo
My brother
antes,
was
que mi
really
cerebro a
cool.
veces funciona así.
I wish you could have met him.
Haciendo una cosa mientras veo otra y mientras me hablan de otra cosa diferente. Como tener 20 conversaciones en la cabeza.
Lewis and I spent a lot of time playing games together,
Y es
but he was
agotador.
surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot.
Oh, mira su muñequito del rey, las pastillas, la drogaína, la gorra manchada de sangre, bastante creepy. También te digo, esa vida de mierda no me extraña, vamos.
He was so proud of being Indian. I think for him, it was a way to be something other than just a Finch.
de la luz, que soy yo literal. Yo pensaba que se iba a meter en una envasadora, en una máquina de esta gigante.
My mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie. I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder. I wish we'd stayed. But I understand why we left.
Joder, pues dejasteis muchísimas cosas.
My mom ended up leaving everything behind.
Sí. No, pero bueno, ¿cómo dejas esa foto? Señora.
What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe it should have come sooner.
Voy a mi cuarto finalmente, pero me falta gente, ¿no?
But it had to end one way or another. All
Joder,
that's
pues
left
anda que
now is
tener
to
que
tell
bajar
you
todo
about
este
that
puto
last
recorrido
night.
para poder ir a la cocina. Anda cojones. Ah, mira, sí se le ve la barriga. Entonces sí, normal que esté de 5 o 6 meses.
That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
"To our final night together, and all our final
Ah, la
nights."
manesa como la dejaron, claro.
Grandma, you know what I said
Sí,
about
ya dónde
alcohol.
llegas, ya vengo,
Some
¿eh?
of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
the power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sealed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance.
Ha, ¿en serio?
Or that Edie had a key to it.
That thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the
transmitió la
nursing home
locura.
send a van for you in the morning. Okay?
Oh, me deja la historia.
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life.
La vieja
But I never
casa.
thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in,
Quería ver la otra.
I lost my way.
Oh No.
I got turned around. I started seeing things.
Uy. Hostia, el árbol del que mató a esta chica.
Things I'd forgotten had ever existed.
Esto me recuerda un poco a Big Fish.
But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me. Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine.
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it. Let go! I kicked and screamed, but
Lo rompió.
Mom dragged me to the car.
Está temblando.
I never saw Great Grandma Edie again.
No, abuela Edie.
The next morning, the band came to pick her up, but she was already gone.
¿Se había ido o se había muerto?
After that, we moved around a lot.
Adiós.
We both tried to make the best of it. A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it. But she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly. She got better for a while, and then she didn't.
Joder, sí que está
And then I
puto
was
maldita la
alone.
familia, vamos. No.
The last Finch left alive.
No, está tu hermano perdido, pero
Until I
claro.
found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this.
Ah, el hijo, ¿no? Le estará hablando al hijo, supongo, ¿no?
If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes.
Un bebé en el útero.
And appreciate how strange and brief all of this is.
Sí. Diría que sí.
This journal was supposed to be for you.
Ah.
But now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you. And tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way.
La luz.
This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
Ah, porque... Ah, el que viene la primera vez no somos nosotras, es ella. O sea, somos nosotros cuando abrimos el libro, es cuando empieza la historia de ella. Ok. No, la casa abandonada. Fíjate tú que yo dormía arriba del todo, tío. Madre mía. Claro, es que al principio... Al principio yo nada más llegar abro un... Sí, como en un barco o algo así, con unas flores y abro el cuaderno. E inmediatamente, digamos que aparezco enfrente de la casa y todo eso. Y pensaba que era la misma persona, pero no, evidentemente no. guardando. Esto la cara de marmolillo, ¿eh? ¿Puedo pasar esto o no? No, parece que no puedo. ¡Oh! No puedo. ¿Va a pasar por todos los cuartos? Bueno, no son tanta gente. Oye, pues bastante guay el juego, ¿eh? Es que los juegos también así de historietas y eso. Mira, jugando a la Game Boy. Me gustan mucho. Porque como me encantan las historias. Me sorprendió mucho cuando lo jugué. 2017 fue un buen año. Sí, videojueguilmente. Gracias, Johan. Un logro. No sale, ¿no? Creo que no. Jack Russell. Y un vestido, creo. O un Ridgeback, no lo sé, no creo que sea un Ridgeback, pero vaya. El rocódromo, el bebé, el Punky y el padre. La actriz. Oh, la pobre granja de hormigas. La Molly. Los gemelos. No debéis tirar mucho. ¿Qué hora es? Son las 11. Ah, pues entonces me da tiempo a una juegación del otro juego tranquilito que quería jugar yo. Pero bueno, niña. Está curioso los créditos que te pongan a todos los diseñadores, desarrolladores. Vamos, todos los que han hecho el juego. Fotos de ellos de chicos. Dino Party. Claro, ves, esas son las mirillas que estaban en el garaje. Videojuegos. VHS. Juez. De 5 años. Tardaron en hacer el juego, en serio. Brutal. Sí, está guay, está chulo. Yo pensaba que me iban a hablar también. Ah, mira, ahora dibujaba esta, ¿tú ves? Sí, de Mirto la dibujaba ahí. Supongo que esto lo habrá dibujado el hija, ¿no? Supongo. Pensaba que a lo mejor me iba a poner también algo de aquí, pero parece que no. La opción repetir la historia ya está disponible. Selecciona Edith para jugar desde el principio. ¿Para qué? Pues me ha gustado el juego, mucho. Creo que es más bien el tiempo que el equipo lleva fundado. Ah, ya decía yo, digo, coño. O sea, el juego está muy guay, pero 5 años para hacer este juego me parecía mucho. Pues me ha gustado mucho el juego. Esta historia me ha parecido un poco... O sea, todas me han parecido con unas muertes muy cruditas. Pero... Esta me ha sorprendido, la niña ahí convirtiéndose en bicho y comiéndose a la peña ahí a lo loco. El del bebé me ha dado penita también, qué lástima. Esta es, claro, esta es la madre. Ah, vale, porque este es el marido, vale. Y este pues supongo que sería la mujer de Odín, supongo. Pues lo dicho, me ha gustado mucho el juego. No sé. Yo recordaba haber jugado a este juego, pero evidentemente no me lo he debido de terminar, porque hay muchísimas cosas que yo no me sonaban para nada. Sí recordaba que era un tema de conocer las historias de las familias y todo el rollo. Y sabía que era hablando de sus vidas y de sus muertes y todo eso, pero no recordaba que fuera tan extraño y drama y todo. Bueno, pues como tengo tiempo todavía y me apetece probarlo, para quien quiera quedarse, voy a cortar aquí y voy a abrir ahora en un momentito otra vez para jugar al otro juego que quiero jugar. Así que, para que quiera quedarse, muchas gracias por haber estado por aquí. Espero que hayáis disfrutado del juego, a mí me ha gustado bastante. Y nos vemos en próximos directos. Adiós.